Hello everyone, and welcome back to PokePaint, the series where I draw new Fakemon to inhabit my fan Pokemon region, Fore, based off the British and US Virgin Islands. So, my original idea for this week was to do a very story-heavy episode where I was going to do some evolutions, and though I do plan on doing that one soon, mainly because one of the designs is finished, I switched gears halfway through production to focus on an episode that I never actually planned to do. A few days ago, fellow YouTube creator Boreal Mind created a video on her Fakemon series where she made a Pokemon line based on a cryptid creature from Germany. It's a very good video and a great series overall. Her Fakemon region is based on her home country of Germany, and it's very well done. You should go and check it out if you have the time. This video is part of a themed tag where artists are prompted to create Pokemon based on or themed around cryptids. I was one of the creators that she tagged at the end of her video. And since the prompt is such an interesting one, and since she was super nice with how many good things she said about the PokePaint series at the end of her video, I just couldn't say no. Seriously, I love that you guys love the PokePaint series so much. It means the world to me. A cryptid, for probably the one person out there that doesn't know, is a collective term that refers to any creature referred to in a legend or native tale of some sort that's often tied to a region or culture. Think urban legends. They usually take on the form of some sort of spectral being or an uncatalogued animal. Looking back, I've actually done a fair few Pokemon based on cryptids. So this time, I specifically wanted to do one based in Caribbean folklore. And as it turns out, that may have been more difficult than I thought, because there's 6 of them. There's not very many. That didn't really hold me up super long, though, as I chose 2 legends to use that I really liked quite a bit. The first is called the Luska, I think, which is a half-shark, half-giant squid-type thing. And the second is the Chukcharni, a humanoid owl-like creature that can be dangerous to travelers. Although I chose Luska to do a Fakemon design on, it honestly doesn't directly inspire this design. To be more clear, it reminded me of a beta Pokemon design that was supposed to be in gold and silver, that looked somewhat similar in appearance to the Luska, and it was this shark Pokemon with an anchor in place of its tail. Due to the fact that they're only a generation apart, and are very visually similar in many ways, I imagined this Pokemon that was named Akiri in its beta form eventually became Sharpedo. So I thought that combining those 2 ideas to loosely look like a Luska would make a very fun regional form of Sharpedo. Of course, that meant I had to create a Carvana form as well. I considered the fact that many regional forms are designed to have the same pose as their original counterpart, but are supposed to embody a different typing and a different personality type or emotional state. That gave me the thought of turning the nasty, mean-looking Hoennian version of Carvana into a sort of skittish type of creature. And although I didn't keep the pose, I definitely played up the other 2 aspects. I had the idea that, like Sharpedo, it would have some sort of man-made thing attached to its body, and I thought of a way to combine the 2 ideas would be to have it tangled up in some sort of sea trash-like stuff. Yeah, that's pretty gruesome, but a lot of ghost types are. So I tangled it in a mix of seaweed and what I imagined once was a puka shell necklace with a shark tooth pendant on the end. I don't really know where I came up with that specific idea, but it felt right and a little ironic, so I went with it. So it was kind of difficult to illustrate that aforementioned upward strained movement that I wanted to portray in this design on a 1,000 by 1,000 square canvas. But I sort of got away with it by curling the necklace background on itself. Its colors would reflect the sickly, ghostly look of some sort of haunted undead creature, a zombie shark, if you will, which, depending on the version of the Luska legend you go with, is what it is, a zombie shark. Troporian Carvana, the Tangled Pokemon. The Sharpedo that live in the Trapor region lay their eggs amongst shipwrecks at the bottom of the ocean. Because of this, the newly hatched Carvana are enveloped in, and often become entangled by, the human trash that accompanies these shipwrecks. The weight of the trash pulls them down, and therefore the Carvana spend their entire lives on the seafloor, where they have adapted to hunt and live. Okay, so that's probably the darkest Pokedex entry that I've written. But seeing as the Pokemon Company made Cursula, a Pokemon based on bleached coral, I think this form of Carvana falls into a very similar theme of the impact of ocean pollution. But I'm not going to get all preachy on you, so let's turn from that kind of dismal thought to something a lot cooler. Sharpedo was the first of the two that I did. Therefore, I did the most experimenting with the way that it was colored and shaded. Of course, I settled on the sort of zombie-like palette that I thought of before, but also made the conscious decision to have it lit from below instead of above, like many ghost types are. This is to differentiate them from the other types of Pokemon, and I imagine make the type more thematically consistent. The directional light also works really well in another way, as I imagine this Pokemon would spend most of its time at the bottom of the ocean, and therefore its only interaction with people would probably be through some spotlight or flashlight. It would be lit from afar in a kind of spooky way. Troporian Sharpedo, the shipwreck Pokemon in the evolved form of Carvana. The Sharpedo that live here in the Trapor region spend their whole lives in the dark at the bottom of the ocean. They often congregate around shipwrecks and in tight trenches, as this is where smaller fish Pokemon like to live. They are difficult to locate due to the depths that they're known to live at. This, however, is usually considered a good thing, as they are highly aggressive, even more so than their Hoennian counterparts. So the next one is half based on the Chickcharney. Well, the final form is, but for the first form I went with a similar legend from Argentina that lent itself to a similar type of character design. A Chon-Chon is supposed to be a small bird-like creature that is a shapeshifter. Their true form is that of a wizard who removed his head and turned it into a bird-like thing. Yeah, it gets weirder. Apparently, if you don't give it salt, the guy who wrote the Wikipedia page, quote, doesn't know what it'll do to you, but you should probably give it salt. That's probably the best Wikipedia page I've ever read. I don't know who wrote that, but that's hilarious. As it's most often depicted as a bird with a human face, that put the idea into my head, that of mimicry, which is when animals grow to look like other, often more dangerous animals for their protection. This is seen in birds usually by their plumage, and I used that idea to give it two faces. I eventually found a great place to hide another face would be in its wings, and quite purposefully, through the way I designed it, this is the first face that you would notice when you first look at this Pokemon. With a brown and red color palette, it unintentionally ended up looking a bit like Hoothoot, which I like though, because both of these designs look like previously established Pokemon, but I think that lends even more to the falseness of how they're supposed to look, if that makes sense. The name Chongaise is from the Chon part of the word Chon-Chon, and guise from both the English word meaning a disguise and the first part of the Japanese word that means to tweet like a bird. Chongaise, the false face Pokemon. These Pokemon were once thought to never sleep. However, the real fact is far more frightening. It has two brains and two minds, and when one falls asleep, the other comes to life and pilots the body. They are never awake at the same time, and it is unknown what would happen to the Pokemon if they were. The evolved form of Chongaise is Falgul. I didn't realize that OBS wasn't recording during the first hour of sketching, so sadly the beginning of this process was lost. However, that's probably to your best interest, as some of the artistic depictions of a Chickcharny are pretty creepy. They're supposed to be this tall, sort of gross-looking owl-man hybrid that wanders the countryside. If you should happen upon it while traveling, you'd be well advised to treat it nicely, or you should experience an extended period of bad luck. Since the Chickcharny is supposed to have human hands, I illustrated it with its body markings that make it appear as though it has gloved hands at the end of its wings. And carrying over the false face design of the first form, I developed these bizarre eye-like markings on its wings. Those led to an idea that would lead me to later come up with the Pokédex entry that made it very fun to write. The funny dilemma that I had while making all of the Pokemon in this video is that now I have a lot of both bird Pokemon and ghost-type Pokemon for the Trapor region, and with spooky season coming up, there's just gonna be more ghost Pokemon that I'm probably gonna make. It took me a long time to consider whether or not to make these ghost types, as I was designing them as ghost types the whole time. And at the end of the day, I thought, to hell with balancing, Trapor could do with 1 or 2 or 4 too many ghost types. Falgul, the Spectre Pokemon in the evolved form of Chongaise. There is a legend that Traporian mothers tell their children that Falgul is an evil spectre. They travel the countryside looking for their victims. If you should stumble upon one, never look it in its eyes, as if you do, it will take your spirit, and you will become one of the many eyes that it keeps under its wings. Scientists hope that this is not true. So, like I said, there's our 4 new Pokemon that I've added to the Pokédex this week, and as I'm looking at it, though I was originally planning on trying to hit 100 Pokemon before the end of the series, with a few more comment-suggested Pokemon that I plan to tackle in the future, I may have overshot that marker by a little bit, but hey, the more the merrier, right? Did any of these designs make it onto your team? Let me know in the comments below. So apparently at the end of these themed videos, we're supposed to tag other creators in order to carry on the collab. And although I don't know anyone personally who I think would like to join in, I have 2 channels in mind that I personally think would do an excellent job with the concept. The first is Tank Runner, who is creating a Fakemon region based on Australia. He's a very cool art style when it comes to Fakemon and tends to lean towards the very old-timey Gen 1 and 2 like designs, and it makes for a very fun viewing experience like no other. The second is probably no one's surprise, is the channel that inspired me to start my own art-focused YouTube channel in the first place, that being Subjectively. This channel is run by a group of artists, but the main one is named Jack. Him and his fiancée Claire are making a region based on Mexico that they call the Maza region. But let's be honest, if you're so far down the rabbit hole that you're watching my content, then you've definitely seen theirs. If I'm to play favorites, they're one of my personal favorite Fakemon series out there. That's probably not as hard to imagine as I'd like to think it is. I basically bummed his whole format. I think either one of them would come up with a very cool Pokemon for this idea, so on the rare chance that they do find this video and decide to join in, it'd thoroughly make my day. Anyways, definitely go check him out, or Tank Runner, or Boreal Mind if you have a hankering for some more Fakemon action. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. As always, if you have a suggestion for a new Fakemon idea, then leave it in the comments below. And if you like this video and want to see more like it, then subscribe and turn on the bell to get notified when I upload next.